Hi, welcome back. It's nice to have you here. I have another book to share with you today. This is Amity by Nathan Harris. And if I sound especially cheerful today, it's because I'm solar powered and the sun is shining and it is the middle of June and flowers are blooming. Life is good. Sometimes all it takes is a little vitamin D, huh? Anyway, this is Amity by Nathan Harris. So, 1860s New Orleans. Coleman and June are freed siblings, who still work for their former owners, the Harper family, as though nothing has changed. Wyatt Harper, who is obsessed with June, has taken her and gone to Mexico, and the siblings wonder if they will ever see each other again. When a stranger comes with a letter, Coleman and Mrs. Harper and her daughter all answer the summons. But the truth soon comes to light. Wyatt has abandoned his family and only wants Coleman to use as bait to capture June, who has managed to escape him. Nathan Harris is the author of The Sweetness of Water. This book is an adventure story, or an odyssey, with Coleman coming across many trials and tribulations on his way to find June, while his sister resists her captor and wonders if she'll ever see her brother again. She is also on her own journey as we learn the story of where Wyatt took her and what's there, and she eventually finds her way to Amity, a safe place, and the title of the book. Including June's story is an interesting choice. From Coleman's perspective, the tension is partly that he doesn't know if his sister is alive or dead or in what condition, but by having the reader know she's coping and is actually mostly fine, a lot of that tension or mystery is lost. Also, with his journey being quite dramatic and perhaps even melodramatic, with shipwrecks, deaths, kidnappings, murder, her story feels a bit flat and quiet in comparison, and intercutting that with his journey kind of doesn't quite work. Coleman is really our main character. He's kind of the main character of the book, really. He's been sheltered as much as possible by June when they were growing up, and he's managed to get access to Wyatt's extensive library in his house, which has given him an uppity way of being, which rubs some former slave owners the wrong way. He's friendly and chatty while also being a bit naive or innocent, and this journey takes him out of his comfort zone. He's tended to stay in places he knows, even refusing to run away with June at one point in the past. While the journey leads him out into the world, Coleman grows in confidence, but doesn't lose his charm, which I really like. I think that's nice. June, on the other hand, feels less well written than her brother. She's endured Wyatt's obsession with her and managed to use it to gain what small power she could, mostly to protect her brother. She's more worldly than he is, and because of what's happened to her, she's a more internalized, less demonstrative character. That said, she escapes from a man who has controlled her and who has sexually abused her from a young age, straight into another relationship, which seems to just fix everything. This feels like a simplification and a misunderstanding of the trauma and ensuing recovery of a sexual assault survivor. We also never know what she looks like or why is she so appealing to all of these men. Like why Wyatt is obsessed with her. I suppose maybe he just is, that can happen. But yeah, she just feels like we're missing a few pieces of the puzzle there. One of the best parts of this novel is the dog Oliver. He belongs to Florence, the daughter of the Harper family, but is taken care of by and essentially belongs to Coleman. We're told that he's a terrier, which was a working breed at the time and not a typical lapdog for a lady of the time period. But perhaps that's why Florence doesn't really dote on him or connect with him, maybe. Oliver is the best friend and confidant of Coleman and a lovely addition to the story. Coleman has quite modern and progressive views on animals and their rights for the era, which was quite anachronistic, but I think it's fine. It's one of those things where I was like, people did not see animals this way at this time, so I think people would have possibly thought he was a bit, maybe, unbalanced, shall we say, for thinking some of the things he does. But it's a story. It's a novel, I think it's fine. Now, just to let you know, normally if there's a dog in the book, in any book, you just know it's cause for concern, shall we say. don't worry, Oliver makes it to the end of the book. That's not a spoiler. It's just, I feel like if you wanted to read this book and you weren't sure, you know, not everything is smooth sailing for Oliver, but he makes it to the end of the book. You know, it really bothers me that whenever there's a dog in a book, and this may be childhood trauma, childhood book trauma, but, you know, dogs and horses in books, I think really specifically, let's just not go there today. Anyway, Mrs. Harper and her daughter were fairly one note to me, just spoiled white women, naive and grasping. The women in this book are a bit underwritten. And Florence was surprisingly able to do things in this time period that I'm not sure a woman of her station would know how to do or be allowed to do. At any point, she didn't really seem to be afraid of being like assaulted in any way. I can't say more without spoiling the novel, but she has a lot of agency in this book and is able to kind of do things that, from my understanding, and of reading a lot from this time period and history and all that kind of stuff, I don't think women would be allowed to do a lot of the things that she does without a chaperone. Anyway, that was kind of something where I was like, okay, they have so much agency. I think the way the author evokes the world of the story is really good. It feels atmospheric. Most of the time it feels quite realistic. And I don't know, you can really see it and feel it and smell it, you know? At first, I was comfortable to sink into the world of Coleman and just see where it was all going. I really enjoyed those opening chapters. The historic elements are there, and the story of the town of Amity and the Seminole people, the things that were happening in the area at the time, all that stuff is fascinating. But for me, other than Coleman and Olivia, the characters were all a bit flat, and all the events that happened to him are so dramatic. You know, I suppose history can be that way sometimes. I mean, this is fiction, but, you know, if you think back on what people's lives used to be like, you know. But in a fictional story where there's a shipwreck, a kidnapping, a murder, and like it just kind of felt like episodic. And, you know, rather than feeling dramatic, it felt melodramatic. It felt a bit hollow for me. At one point, a man is stabbed in the foot, and a few scenes later, he's back on the chase, which is not likely with an injury like that, and is definitely unlikely in an era before antibiotics. So I think for me, this one just wasn't quite there. I can see what the author is going for, and I think the history behind the story is compelling. I feel like these narratives are really interesting. But yeah, there was just moments where I would be like, oh, okay, this is happening now. Like, just couldn't quite sink and relax into this one. It just felt a little hollow or something for me. But if you liked the author's previous book, I think you'll like this one. Perhaps if the subject matter appeals to you, give it a try for yourself. Make up your own mind, you know, of course. It just wasn't, for me, it just didn't quite gel as much as I wanted it to. But yeah, I think, you know, I may read his previous book, or if he comes out with another book, you know, I would definitely read this author again. It's that kind of thing. But yeah, that is Amity. And thank you to HBG Canada, because they sent me a copy of this book to review. Those are my thoughts on it. Have you read this one? Did you? I feel like some people really loved this one. So if you've read it and you felt differently to me, I'd love to know, or if you agree with me, like, I'd love to like kind of know your thoughts on this one. Obviously, because I just like hearing what other people think and seeing if they kind of, sometimes things hit people so differently, you know? So let me know what you think. And thank you for watching.